know much about the programme. I'm just going to run through some introduction slides. Catherine, are you okay to start recording? This session will be recorded, so if you'd prefer not to be in the recording, do keep your cameras off. We're not going to record any question and answers at the end though, so feel free to ask away, and the recording is only sent out to people who couldn't attend and put on our YouTube as a private video for businesses that we work with, so it's not broadcast publicly. You won't suddenly see yourself appearing on social media. So if you're okay to record that for me, Catherine, that would be great. So as I said, very welcome this afternoon to our Kent and Medway Healthy Workplaces Resilience Seminar. Just some very brief housekeeping. Please do keep yourself on mute while the session, just to reduce background noise. If you need to take a phone call during it, obviously mute yourself and just step away. Use the raise hand function if you have questions. Keep calm, drink plenty of tea and coffee or water during the session. If you need to pop away from the screen for a break at any point, that's also absolutely fine. We aim to finish in around an hour. So it would be great if you could share about the seminar today, keep it social. So if you do want to tweet or post anything about the seminar, please do use our hashtag, which is hashtag KM Healthy Workplaces. If you do have any questions that you'd like to ask, don't feel comfortable raising your hand and asking in this session, or you've got further sort of workplace wellbeing questions, please do email us, and that's workplacehealth@medway.gov.uk. So just by way of an introduction, why does workplace health matter? There's lots of stats on this screen. I'm not going to dwell on them, but it just brings home the importance of why we do what we do in keeping businesses healthy and supporting them. So 1 in 3 people of working age have at least one long-term health condition, and we expect that to rise in the next 10 years to around 40%. Stress is a huge cost to the UK economy, and we have 1 in 10 employees living with a musculoskeletal condition. Sickness absence, huge cost, and obviously the last year has probably masked some of that with people working from home, and obviously COVID absences are then added to that as well. So I'm not going to, as I said, I won't dwell on those stats, but there are lots of figures out there as to why workplace health is important. So workplace health does matter. Obviously, if we have good worker health, we're going to be more productive at work. That gives businesses the edge and helps competitiveness and plug the productivity gap, which in turn benefits economic development and prosperity and social well-being and wealth and health. And it just goes round in a cycle, a good positive cycle. So good work is good for us, and being healthy at work helps us to do better and feel and be better. Just as a very brief introduction, this seminar is put on as part of the Kent and Medway Healthy Workplace programme. So it's a Kent and Medway wide award where we support businesses through an awards framework to make sure you've got basics in place for health and wellbeing and addressing some of your needs. So the stage 1, the bronze award, is about embedding a healthy workplace. That's 10 fixed pledges to make sure that you've got the right basics in place to build a healthy workplace culture. We then take you on to silver or gold with these themes of the award, as you can see on the screen, very much focusing on what you need and what you need for your staff. So it's very much led by your needs, and we're there to support you with that. And seminars such as this that we put on and other lunch and learns are very much part of what we do for workplaces across Kent and Medway. And then as you move to platinum, that's an extra award level for businesses, showing that continuous improvement and demonstrating social values, making a difference in their staff's health and in that of their communities. Just some of the benefits for the workplace. So by being a healthy workplace, you can benefit from reduced sick leave, increased productivity, increased staff engagement, and I think that's probably the thing we see most from our evaluations, and an increased willingness in your staff to make healthy changes. So what we offer regular newsletters to keep you up to date on current campaigns, trainings and events. Initiatives such as workplace health checks and MOTs, things like stop smoking support for your staff, physical activity challenges and sessions. Lots of staff training around mental health, alcohol, workplace champions, other topics, support for wellbeing days, health topic workshops if that's something that's of interest. And if you're really sort of starting out new or don't have sort of your own HR department, we do have some policy guidance and advice that we can also provide. If you're interested in learning more, please do fill the feedback form in at the end. There's also the link there for the web page. Just as we go through this session, just to remind you, if you hover at the bottom, you'll see a reactions button. So please do raise your hand if you want to ask questions, and we'll keep an eye on the chat and do that in the Q&A session, and as and when there's opportunity during it. So that's all from me. Obviously, you came along to hear about resilience and not really a programme overview. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and hand over to Tom now. So Tom Jeffs is from Changing Minds Kent, and he's going to give us a session on resilience. Thank you, Tom.
I was sort of waiting for someone to unmute me then, but I did it myself, so that's good.
Right.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom Jeffs. Yes, Changing Minds Kent. Thank you very much, Michelle, for the introduction. Yeah, I think it's a great program that Michelle and her colleagues are running. I think it's great that we can have something local that can form like a part of an accreditation, you know, for the kind of work that we're doing. And yes, I think that's good, isn't it? That we can have something to kind of show our interest in the staff that are doing this work. So this is a workshop about resilience. And I have some slides to share as well, which I'll do now in a second. Here we go. So just to let you know, I'm Changing Minds Kent. So we're a local non-profit CIC. And we do a couple of things. Not only do we do work around employee well-being, because we run a number of kind of workshops and training programs and stuff like that, but we also work in the community. So we do kind of community projects around mental well-being, and even other things as well. Last summer we had the issue with children without school meals, so we had money and we run a food bank for a while in East Kent. So we do community orientated stuff. So again, that might even link in a little bit what Michelle was saying about that kind of platinum, you know, having social value, working with local organizations. So we're really interested in working with local organizations. So that's of interest to you, then give us an email, give us a call. So a little bit of an overview for our webinar today. I think it's always good to have a little look at, you know, where's mental well-being at? You know, what does the latest research show? We've all got gut feelings about what's going on, but it'll be interesting to see a little bit of that. I'd like to talk about positive psychology and the lessons that we can learn. I've worked in mental health for 20 years. I'm training to become a psychotherapist, but I also work as a positive psychology coach. So I'm doing a master's at East London. So I'm going to bring a few kind of positive psychology ideas into the lecture today. Positive psychology is has a scientific base, and it's essentially the science of well-being. For many years, there was this kind of feeling that psychology was about what was wrong with you. Positive psychology, I think we'd like to say, we're looking at what's right with you. We're going to start there, and we look at the most resilient, you know, the most happy, content people, and we ask the question, what can we do to be more like that? So that's positive psychology, the science of well-being. So we're going to look at 6 lessons, and every time I do this webinar, what I tend to do at the end is ask everyone, which of these 6 lessons is helpful to you? And the one that comes last, I bump it and I stick a new one in. So there'll be 5. If you've been on this before, 5 you'll recognize, but there'll be a new one in there. And I'll keep doing that each time just to try and improve, you know, these kind of little tips and ideas which might be beneficial for you, kind of like building resilience, not just for you personally, but the teams and the organizations that you work in. And then I'm going to share a little thing on 10 tips to support mentally healthy cultures. We'll have a little look at that. And I might just tell you a little bit about some of the programs and some of the work that we do. So first of all, where are we at? Okay, so this is from the Office of National Statistics from January 2021. You might see there we've got 4 graphs there. I don't know if this is a surprise to you, but life satisfaction is down. Happiness is down, anxiety is up, and feeling that life is worthwhile is also down. I'm not surprised by that. I don't know if you are, but I think there's something about what's going on, obviously, with kind of COVID, which is going to raise anxiety. There's something about isolation, being isolated from the people that we love and the things that we'd normally do to enjoy life. So that's what's going on. And that's the context in which we're operating. This is the context in which we're working here. So we need to bear that in mind. We can put our head in the sand, just go, everything's is as usual, but it's not. Next slide might be interesting for you, especially if you're a larger business and employ younger people. So this is some stats from the middle of last year. The light blue represents before COVID, dark blue after COVID. What you'll notice there, this is the prevalence of moderate to severe symptoms of depression. Big, like a disproportionate impact on younger people. Again, I don't know if that's a surprise to you. It's not to say that those that are older, I mean, certainly 70 and older, you can see there's a doubling. And no doubt maybe that's to do with perception of risk. But certainly it's tripled in the younger age group. So again, if you've got kind of workplaces where you employ younger people, that's what was going on back in the summer. Obviously, it's a moving thing. So I don't believe it's quite like that at the minute, but certainly in the summer, there was a lot of anxiety, there was a lot of depression in younger people. So that was just a little bit of a snapshot in time, what's going on. Okay, so what is positive psychology? I've mentioned it a little bit, but it's a scientific study of optimal human functioning. So that's what we're kind of interested in. I just want to give you just a little bit of an understanding of a kind of theoretical base when it comes to our training at Changing Minds Kent, and of course this webinar that we're doing today. So what we're going to be looking at in the webinar, I'm going to be giving like 6 lessons, 6 tips. Some of them hopefully will be helpful to you personally, or to your teams, or to your organization in some way. Maybe not all of them, but hopefully some of them. So I've got a good friend who will say, just take what works. Don't worry about the rest. Just concentrate on what works for you. Okay, so our first lesson, so a model I'd like to introduce to you is a model called Perma. Really interesting model. Now, if you kind of work in the workplace and you're asking the question, how can we measure well-being? Well, we've been doing that for a little while, and quite successfully on like a peer-reviewed basis. And there's lots of different kind of well-being measures, but this is one that I particularly like because it's got, not only I like it because it's got 5 aspects. You imagine like 5 pillars that kind of build well-being. Well, this has got like those 5 pillars, which you kind of see there. But the thing I really like about it is that you can measure it, and there's benchmarks. Okay, so let me just show you this kind of next slide. This is our version of the Perma 21 question survey. So you can actually do this kind of survey, and it's got good replicability. So if you kind of do it again, you get kind of similar results. So that's something we're always interested in, is how replicable is it? How reliable is it as a kind of as a measure? So we can measure these 5 different areas, and then certainly as a business, you can ask the question, you can kind of put something in place, and then maybe kind of measure something later on. What impact has that had? Has it changed the well-being? So I really like that about it. Again, if you're interested, if anybody wants a copy of this, if you email me, I'll just send you a PDF. That's fine. This is just my own version. I've kind of put it out there. So if you're interested in that, just let me know. We do actually kind of, I was just running this as a workshop actually yesterday with a large Kent estate agency with their mental health first aider team, which we've trained up, and we do a little half-day workshop where we can go through this and measure it and actually develop a plan to improve things. The Perma, what does it stand for? Well, the P is positive emotions. So we're talking about love, we're talking about awe. When was the last time you went, wow, isn't that amazing? Okay, that's positive emotion, that kind of a sense of connection, interest, serenity. And these are things that we experience, a very experiential aspect. When people don't have that, they're not happy. So that's quite obvious. And that, for many, was like the first thing that we put into a well-being model like that. But there are other things. E stands for engagement. In positive psychology, we call that flow. The vast majority of people have flow experiences. It's normally when they're doing something they're good at, okay, like something that you can master. So you may have experienced it maybe when you've been reading a book, but what tends to happen is that you lose sense of self and of place. You may have experienced it when you've been really engrossed in a film, and the film ends, you're like, whoa, where am I? And you know, what time is it? Because it's dark in the cinema. You would have experienced a flow. That's what we call a flow experience. Research shows that the more flow experiences you have, the higher your subjective well-being measures will be. So that's engagement. R is for relationships. Again, I think that's quite obvious, but again, there are skills and things we can learn about how we can engage with others and improve the quality and depth of our relationships. We might talk a bit more about that later. M is for meaning. So it's not just about feeling good, but some, you know, people are kind of driven by something bigger and more important than themselves. You know, they want to kind of see some kind of things be fair and just, you know, that can really drive people. And they might be in a 5-star hotel, but if they can see poverty outside when they're on holiday, it can make people feel uncomfortable. And there's something about that as humans, that we kind of want things to be well. And so that drives meaning and purpose. So that's very important for well-being. And finally, A, accomplishment. That's the feeling of wind in your hair. Very important. You don't want to feel like you're languishing. You want to feel like you're flourishing. So that's Perma. You can measure it. And you know, there's workshops you can kind of make use of. And if you're interested in this, then let me know. I can send it to you. Okay, so that's lesson 1. Let's look at lesson 2. Stress container. This is it's a lovely model. I love this model, but it's one that we actually use in our mental health first aid training that we offer. This could be a bit of an interactive one. So I'm kind of hoping that I'm hoping that you're not just sitting there thinking that you're going to be passive recipients, you know, that this information is going to flow out from me into your brains and you know, bring, you're going to be happy. Unfortunately, you know, happiness and contentment do require a bit of effort. I don't know if that's news to you. Annie's given me the thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. So with that in mind, this is a model. We've got a stress bucket. We've got an idea that stress flows into the bucket and the liquid level fills up. Okay. And eventually it can fill up so much that it can overflow. Okay. And when it overflows, we call that snapping. I'm sure we've all experienced that. I certainly have, when I've had enough and someone just adds that next little bit of extra stress and it overflows and everyone knows about it. I'm sure you've experienced that as well. Well, it's being aware that that's what's going on. In the model, we have TAPS, you know, good coping mechanism, bad coping mechanisms. Now, just by way of a review, maybe if you've got a pen and paper in front of you, just try this for a couple of minutes. I want you to write down what's in your stress container at the minute. Okay, so start bullet pointing them down now. Don't worry, because no one's going to be asking you what's in your stress container, but just start writing down what's in your stress container. Could be health orientated, finance orientated, things at work, home life, relationship issues. And what tends to happen is that the longer you start kind of thinking about this, the more stuff you start writing down. the stuff kind of floating around and sort of just in your subconscious, go, oh yeah, I'm actually worried about that, and that's something that's been on my shoulders, as it were, and I didn't even realize I was carrying that, but I am. Just going to give you another 20 seconds. It's good to reflect on the reality of the situation that we're in. You know, what is it that we're actually concerned about? What's on our minds? Okay, now we don't have like, yeah, what we do have on Zoom here is we have reactions. And at the bottom of, you might see like a little kind of menu bar. There's a bunch of stuff like mute and stop video. And along towards the end there, you might have reactions. Now, what I'm interested in, after having a little think about, you know, your stress container, you might think, actually, yeah, it's about half full. Others of you might be thinking, boy, mine's full. Others of you are like, it's overflowing. I don't even know why I'm here at this webinar. I can't take any more information in. I'm at the end of my tether. Can I just get like a little show of hands in reactions? If you are okay, give me a thumbs up. Like if you're kind of mid, but I don't know if you can see. There's this reaction here. If you're full or overflowing, then give me that reaction. But if you're okay, then give me this reaction. Can you do reactions? Oh, we've got some people are kind of all right. It seems like everyone working at Medway is stressed. Okay. So we've got a good few people. Good. Okay. Can I say to those of you that are that it's going to be really important that you start saying no to some things. Can I also say that you need to take 5 minutes? And the other thing, oh, Catherine says she can't find a reaction button. Not to worry, Catherine. As long as you know where you're at, and if you're stressed, yeah, take 5 minutes. One of the other things about this stress container that I really like as a model is obviously we've got the idea of the tap. You know, you can turn a tap on and it actually starts to reduce the level of liquid, right? So what are your good coping mechanisms? Okay, what are the things that you use? Could you just write 3 down now? What do you do that would actually has a positive impact on your stress? My good coping mechanisms would be walking with people, doing some light exercise, although I've hurt my ankle, so that's not easy at the minute. And what else am I doing? I do a little bit of journaling from time to time. That's my coping mechanism, just kind of writing down what's going on with me. And I find that kind of quite helpful. So just write down 3 things. And can I ask you this question? When are you going to do them next? Can you fit them in today? Can you fit them in tomorrow? Are you going to do it this week? Okay, that you might find that helpful. I know it's a silly thing to sort of like, are you going to do this? But I mean, well, you might be planning to, but can you do more of it is the question. Okay, the final thing I like about this model is this kind of idea of a stress signature. Now, what you might find is that as the stress levels rise, as you get near the top, you actually start displaying behaviors which are a result of stress. Many people are unaware of them, but we all have a personal stress signature. That's what's called a signature. It's something personal to you. My personal stress signature is things like I will start knocking things off tables or dropping things, or I walk into things because I'm so focused, I'm so busy in my mind that I start to become like unaware of my physical environment. Okay, so that's a bit of a sign for me. Or if I mishear things, my wife says, oh, I told you. I'm like, that's a little sign for me. If I'm starting missing things in conversations, or if I start talking really quickly, that's another sign of stress. So a little flag goes up and I think to myself, I need to take 5 minutes. Now the question is, what's your stress signature? Okay, have you got something that you're like, oh yeah, I do that? Some people isolate themselves. Some people eat chocolate. I mean, it's a signature is unique to you. But if you're aware of it, then it could be a little sign to take 5 minutes before it all gets too much, and you say something you don't mean, that you're ungenerous in your interactions, and you give yourself work. You know, that later on you've got to apologize to someone. So just to be aware, more self-aware, so that you don't overdo it. Okay, resilient people do this. They're self-aware. They increase their self-awareness, so they know what their limitations are, what they can and can't do. So that's our second lesson, stress container. Now this is a new one. It got brought in because one got dropped, so this is a new one in. This is the dreaded drama triangle. I love this. This is Cartman. This is a model from about 70 years. Now, if you find yourself with social interactions that there is drama in your life, at work or at home life, then it could possibly be that you're stuck in a drama triangle, a dreaded drama triangle. Now, in the drama triangle, you'll notice there are 3 roles that people can play. You can be a persecutor, you can be a rescuer, or you can be a victim. Now, it's really important for me to say off the bat that we're not saying, when we say victim, what we mean by that is playing the victim. Okay, what we're not saying is that there is no such thing as victims. Of course, there are such things as victims. You know, there's lots of things that are unfair in this world, and people are victims. That is true. But what I'm talking about here is playing the victim, playing a victim, so that it induces in others a sense that they need to be rescued. Now, you might find yourself in that situation, especially in a work kind of context. You'll have someone that you line manage, and they will believe that they are powerless, that they are at the mercy of life circumstances, and they can't take responsibility. And then you, as a rescuer, you're the hero. You're going to come in and save them. The only problem is that you are fostering dependency with them. Sometimes you can actually get irritated at this person playing the victim, and you end up becoming a persecutor. And you start saying, oh, it's actually your fault, and leave me alone, and stop, think I'm going to sort all your problems out. And it's interesting, we can go around this triangle, sometimes we're the rescuer, and then later we're the victim, and someone else is the persecutor. It's a really interesting model. You do see this kind of interaction, certainly in kind of business hierarchies, or maybe you're the victim and your boss is the rescuer or persecutor. Unhealthy relationship dynamics where people are overstepping what they're actually responsible for. So what do we do instead? Well, we're looking at, rather than being a rescuer, we be a coach. Okay, we don't take responsibility for people. Like a coach, thinking like in sporting terms, a coach can't do it for you. Like a coach can't run the 100 meters for you, but they can facilitate the environment for you to be at your best. And that's what a coach will do. So if you're interested in how to get out of the dreaded drama triangle, have a little read of, I think it's David Emerald's The Empowerment Dynamic. How can you be in there? It's a much healthier place where you try and move people from being a victim to being a creator of their own solutions, working within the parameters, because obviously things are still unfair, but like, what can we do about it? And how can we support people rather than fostering dependency? So I love that. So don't get caught up. Instead, like, recognize what's going on, choose a different approach, recognize where your boundaries are, recognize what you do and don't have control over, and don't live like, don't do things for people that they become dependent on you. Sometimes it's nice to be the rescuer. You thought, oh wow, I'm a hero saving all these people from all these problems. But in the long run, it can start to become unhealthy because they're going to come to you every time, and that's not good for you. It's not good for them. So just choose healthy interaction. So that's the dreaded drama triangle. I love that one. Particularly when you see it in your own life, oh my goodness, I'm a persecutor, or I've been trying to rescue someone, or I've been the victim. So that's that. Gratitude. So this is lesson 4, gratitude, gratitude tennis. So gratitude is one of these skills, turns out, that you can learn. They've done these kind of studies where they tell people, look, write 5 things down you're grateful for each day, and do that for a number of weeks. And then they take another group and they say to them, write 5 things that you're disappointed about today. It's not a surprise to people that after a few weeks, there are differences in the groups, in their mood, in their motivation. So there's something about actually that doing, this kind of taking time to be grateful. So we're going to try a little exercise now. I know like many of you don't know each other. I'm sorry about that because we didn't have time to do kind of introductions and stuff like that. But here's a little thing I come up with a few years ago, gratitude tennis. How does it work? Well, you have two players. One person says, I'm grateful for, insert your grateful thing. And then you say why. The why bit's really important as well. What you're grateful for and why. And then it's a little bit like a game of tennis. You kind of knock that over to the other person. They've got to say something that they're grateful for. And you knock it back and forward. No hesitation, no repetition. A little bit like just a minute. And see how long you can go. I bet you can do 3 or 4 hits. I tell you what, it gets hard after 3 or 4 hits. Can you think of 5, 6, 7, 8 things that you're grateful for off the bat? Becomes a challenge. Anyway, that's the idea of gratitude tennis. We're going to give that a go. We're going to put you in breakout rooms for a few minutes. I think we'll have 3 or 4 in a breakout room, so we might try it. Winner stays on, or maybe there might be a few people who don't want to do it. That's fine, but just have a little bit of fun with it for a few minutes, and just kind of practice and see if you can get a rally going. You know, more than 3 or 4. That's the challenge. So let's give this a little go. Let's have a little...
Is it letting you do it, Tom? I can do it if it's easier.
Yeah, no, I've got it here.
You have got it there. Oh, that's great. Sometimes it doesn't always.
Right, I'm going to do 9 breakout rooms. It's going to be 3 or 4 people in each room. Winner stays on. You've got 3 or 4 minutes. Give it a go. You might want to say hello to the people first, but don't hang around because this is lunchtime. We don't have a long time. Get stuck in, you know, have a few hits. Let's go. Oh, so you can see a little button to join the breakout room. I might have a little look. If people don't join, I might move people around. I just wanted you to kind of experience, and hopefully you weren't messing around in those groups, and you were actually doing what you were told. Now, hopefully you had a few hits, you know, just got a sense of what gratitude tennis is like. I was just saying to Michelle that in positive psychology, there is this kind of new idea, something called toxic positivity, you know, the kind of American turn that frown upside down, like that it's really important that, you know, if you play gratitude tennis, like pick your moment. Otherwise, you know, your spouse or colleague will probably just hit you around the head with a tennis racket. So yeah, it's important that we acknowledge what's wrong. This is not about being blind to what's wrong, but we're just trying to change perspectives a little bit. So that's gratitude tennis. Okay, we're running out of time, so I'm going to show you a couple of more little tips. This is a great little one that people kind of like. So we have this unfortunate cultural phenomenon that when people ask you, how are you, that you must reply, yes, I'm fine. Even if you're hanging on to sanity by your fingernails, the answer is always, yeah, I'm all right. Can I suggest, you know, certainly in your workplaces, at home, that you think about maybe answering the question and actually saying how things actually are. And why might you want to do that? Well, in counselling and psychotherapy, we have something called modelling. We can model things for people. We can show people a different way by doing it ourselves first, and people then copy that. So it's something that I kind of do it at work. People ask me how I am. I'm like, give me a second. I'll actually tell you. Like, I'm assuming you really want to know, and I would tell them. Some people are like, oh, and so I will do that, and that models it for other people. And then when I ask them how they are, I'll ask this question. I say, how are you? They say fine, because they always do. Then I say, how are you really? That word really, I like it because it gives permission to be honest. It gives permission for them to be congruent. Like congruency is this kind of idea that what we have inside and what we display are the same thing, that we're not, you know, we don't have this facade up and just pretending everything's all right, whether it is or isn't. And so we can, in our groups and, you know, in our teams and stuff like that, promote a little bit more honesty and a little bit more congruence in our interactions, and that can be helpful. And if we do that first, we show that we trust other people. And the other thing is not to be frightened if someone says they're not okay. Doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. And we'll kind of look at that in the next little lesson. You know, just someone just going, oh, I'm sorry you feel like that. Well, that's all. You don't need to be rescuing them. You know, if you get stuck in this idea that you need to solve everything, then you can be scared of like how people actually are, and you don't really want to be in that position. So that's a nice little tip. How are you? How are you really? So that's a good one for kind of checking in with people. Listening skills. So you might think, wow, listening, like I've been listening since I was born. But there are actually skills for improving listening. So here's a few little tips. Don't be quick to offer solutions. Take time to listen to people. Use of open questions, really trying to explore what's going on. Sorry, 1 second. I've got a text, or I've got loads of text messages, but don't worry, I can do this presentation. Can I do this presentation while I'm doing text messages? No, I can only focus on one thing at a time. And when we're talking with people, these are like, they're bad, because we can accidentally give people the impression that we're more interested in our phone than them. So put your phone aside. If you're going to have a conversation with someone, put that to one side. You don't want to be doing that. Body language is really important. How we set up, you know, when we kind of have conversations. Good eye contact, but not too much. Not too close, but not too far away. You know, so think about how we kind of having these conversations, how we use our eyes to show that we're interested in them. Here's a really important one. It's taken me a little while to learn this, even though I've worked in mental health for 20 years. Questions are okay, but what research shows, if you want to build rapport as quickly as possible, the research shows questions don't really do it. Reflection does it. What do we mean by reflection? Well, some research, even as you know, just a few years ago, there's different types of reflection we can do. So we can summarize. So when someone's talking at the end, we say, oh, so what you're saying is this and this and this. Yeah, is that right? That's summarizing. But what's even better for building rapport is reflection, where we actually pick a few key words from what they say and we repeat them back to them. So just give you an example of that. This is, you know, imagine me, I'm saying, oh, you know, I'm living at my nan's, I'm living in the basement, and I'm overweight and depressed. Reflection would be picking up on the key words, overweight and depressed. And you might feel the need maybe to add a question at the end. Don't, just let that be a springboard, the reflection be a springboard. And that allows, you know, further exploration. We can acknowledge what's going on, and these are the things to avoid. I'm overweight and depressed. Yeah, avoid the solution dressed up as a question. Oh, have you ever tried a diet? That's a solution dressed up as a question. And most of the time it's like, what do you think, I'm stupid? Yeah, I'm 40 years old. Of course I've heard of diets. That can be quite alienating. Or avoid the denial. Oh, you're not overweight, you're just big boned. I've had that a fair bit. That can also be unhelpful. You're like, well, you're either lying to me or, you know, I'm delusional. Either way, that's not good. Or the silver lining, at least you've got a nice car. That's not helpful either. Or talk about yourself. I used to be fat once. Again, not helpful. And avoiding judgment, obviously, you know, where you shouldn't eat so many cakes then. Those are the kind of like reactions, not helpful. So we're looking at reflection. That's a great skill, and research shows that reflection is the quickest way to build rapport. You know, pick out those keywords. So next time you're having a chat with someone in the office, next time you're at home, try it. Pick out a few keywords, put them out there, see what happens. A little practice of that. These are kind of like 101 counselling, psychotherapy skills that you're learning today. We're running out of time. Okay, so I gave you six. I gave you 6 tips. If you've got access to the chat function, do you think you can just in the chat function just type in a like which ones you think you might use? Because I might try and use it as a bit of a poll to try and work out which one's no good. And so just by way of like a little review, the first one was Perma. The second one was the stress container. That's 1 and 2. So if you like them, put 1 and 2 in. 3 was the dreaded drama triangle, Cartman's drama triangle. 4, gratitude tennis. 5, how are you? How are you really? And 6 was the listening skills, particularly reflection. So if you've got access to the chat function, you can type in there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if you like, or just yeah, I might use 1 and 2, or I might use 4 and 5. So yeah, I mean, you can throw in more than one. That's fine. You can throw in more than one. I'm just sort of interested, get a bit of feedback, which ones you like, which ones you resonate with. You go, yeah, I'm going to use that. Because if you like them, I'll keep them in this presentation, and then in the future, when because we do a webinar at Changing Minds Kent, every other month, and we'll keep the good ones in. We'll chuck the ones that are no good. Okay, so that's helpful. So I just want to kind of just very briefly kind of tell you about this. Nice little infographic here. Supporting mentally healthy workplace cultures. Well, one of the things I think we kind of do at Changing Minds, we've worked with organisations, and we kind of do training on mental well-being. Particularly, people are quite like, as a first port of call, mental health first aid. So me and Colin, we deliver that. We've got other kind of trainers that deliver that as well. And it kind of ticks a lot of these boxes, giving people roles, developing support systems within businesses, creates openness that people feel like they can start to have these conversations one with another. Increases knowledge. That's really important, that people sort of feel like they've got some information about what's going on with them and their colleagues. Helps create new habits, reduces stigma, increases the resources, the awareness of, like, where do we go when we need help? Mental health first aiders have access to those resources. And then by dint of all those things, we start to increase resilience. Now, resilience is one of those things, it's a little bit like a parachute. You want to make it before you need it. It's really hard to sew your parachute up on the way down. Okay, so you want to kind of start to build these things in yourself and in these organizations before you need them. So that's 10 tips. And just a little bit, I suppose, like little kind of sales pitch, I suppose. And I don't feel so bad doing it, because we're non-profit, and the profits of these will actually go into our local communities. But we kind of run these kind of workshops. So if you're interested, kind of speak to us about any of these type of things. We do like a day's workshop on resilience skills. We kind of look at these things, but a bit longer to kind of get into it. Mental health first aid, we love that. That's really great. That comes in a half day, 1 day, 2 day variety. So if you're interested in that, have a chat with us. But we also do, so one thing I'm particularly interested in, kind of goes hand in hand with my MSc, is coaching psychology, positive coaching psychology, one-to-one, working with individuals, working with managers and executives, or working with anyone really. So if you're interested in exploring that conversation, then let us know. We also have access to kind of counsellors that kind of work. We have a bank of counsellors. So we do actually work with workplaces who are interested in a bit more of a, I suppose, a bit more of a customed, employee assistance program type situation, rather than this just someone on the end of the phone that you don't know. We kind of use our counsellors and trainers and stuff in-house. Okay, what else? Yeah, so working with us. This is a little picture of Margate, because that's where we are. If you look really far in the distance, you'll see the silhouette of Westgate. And if you look really closely, you'll see me waving, because that's where I work, over in Westgate. Yeah, so this is about social value, and this is increasing these interest to organizations. How do you convey that? Not only, do you sell your products and services within Kent, but, if you work in Kent, what social value are you kind of adding? That can be a great thing for building the awareness and how people perceive what it is that you're offering to people. So that's working with us as a kind of social value. These are some of the people that we're working with, and some of the projects and stuff that we're involved in. I wish we had more time to look at that, but we don't. So where from here? Yeah, we've got email there. We've got a couple of websites here. With this is our community one, and here's our workplace employee wellbeing program, EWP. And if you haven't had enough of me already, We've got a YouTube channel, 7 things mentally strong people doing during a pandemic. You can have another 5 minutes of me talking about things like this. I might just put that in the chat function if you're interested in watching a few YouTube videos. They can be helpful for kind of, you know, throwing around to staff. It's free, and, you know, maybe they might be helpful to someone that might pick up a few ideas. So I've been talking really quickly. It's because I'm stressed. But that's enough from me. Feel free to ask any questions, no matter how serious or silly. Anything that you're kind of wondering, anything that you heard today, like, oh, I didn't quite understand that. You know, maybe I didn't explain it very well. How are we doing the questions, Michelle? Are we just going to have in the chat?
Yeah, I've picked out a couple. I don't know if Justine, if you've picked out any others. So a couple of people have asked if you're able to share the slides with the delegates.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you send them to me, then we can circulate those. And you mentioned a book earlier on. I think it might have been in the Perma session, and that one of the ladies in the chat has asked what was the book called, please, so she can look into that.
Yeah, so if you're interested in Perma, there's loads on YouTube, but it came out in a book written by Martin Seligman, 2011. It's called Flourish. So, the book's good. I mean, I think trying to get your head around it, there's some good like lectures actually from Martin Seligman just talking about Perma. If you throw that into YouTube, you probably find some stuff. But that's the book that initially, that's where it came from.
Oh, sorry, Joe said it was a David Emerald book you mentioned.
The empowerment dynamic. Yeah, so rather than being stuck in the drama triangle, the empowerment dynamic. I haven't read it. My wife was reading it the other day. It actually comes in the form of a novel. It's kind of quite interesting. Rather than it being more kind of serious kind of psychology book, it's actually presented in a novel where people are actually kind of play these different roles. It's kind of quite interesting.
Michelle, I was just going to quickly say hello to everyone because I'm Colin from Changing Minds Kent. So you probably heard my name at the very, very beginning. My stress container was overflowing because I had to hand my toddler over. We had about 60 seconds to join the call, but obviously Tom's done a sterling job. So just going back to Tom's point about the community work that we do. So if anyone's got any questions, what we will do is we'll put our contact emails as well. Obviously you've seen Tom's one, but again, we are not for profit, profit to people is our tagline. So again, a lot of the work we do is that early intervention, so supporting those people in the local communities, at the heart of local communities. So yeah, just wanted to say hello because you probably heard my name. So yeah, great to see everyone.
Hello, Colin.
Yeah, thank you, Colin.
This is my virtual coffee shop as well. It's not real. People do ask this, so.
Catherine Davenport has asked Tom and Colin if you do any training regarding supporting mums with postnatal and perinatal depression, or if you're aware of any training that is available for that.
That's a good question, Catherine. No, outside of like the mental health first aid, where we do touch on that. I'd have to think about that. I haven't personally come across anything actually.
Yeah, we're actually working with the big lottery, Michelle. So we're looking at a big pilot, well, not a pilot project, but a big project to support local communities in predominantly East Kent. And within that, we've done some consultation with parents that have been a part of that project. So like Tom said at the very beginning, it was providing free food hampers, information about kind of holistic wellbeing. But within that feedback was a lot of mums that have been isolated, and dads as well. And again, for that real kind of targeted support, just to help with resilience, emotional wellbeing. So that's something actually we're going to hopefully factor within that funding bid. So yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, we'll have some workshops.
Yeah, I don't know whereabouts in Kent you're based, Catherine. Obviously, as a public health team, we're familiar with some local services. So if you wanted to either pop something in the chat or send me a direct message with your email, perhaps we can follow up and find some current sources of support, which might help in the meantime until other funding and projects come on board. Steve Lofts made a really great point here. So people that are interested in positive psychology, to check out Action for Happiness. Steve himself is a co-leader of the Medway group, and they run lots of free talks and initiatives. And Action for Happiness is an organisation of some fantastic resources. I know that we've used in workplaces, calendars where you can follow his daily tips and so on. So do have a look at that as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
There was one more question, Tom, from Annie. She said she just qualified as an adult mental health first aider. Would it still be useful for her to do the youth mental health course in June?
You know, every time I deliver mental health first aid, there's so much in there. There's always new stuff kind of, so I would even say doing the mental health first aid training is like worth doing again. And, you know, like there is that kind of idea of kind of doing it every 3 years or kind of refreshing it. I don't deliver the youth version, Colin does. So I know that there are similarities, but there are differences. You know, I mean, think about being a mental health first aider for a young person. There are different issues going on, and there's different stats, and there's different kind of models and approaches. There is obviously a lot of overlap, but there's new stuff in there. And you know, I personally think you know, mental health is one of those things you never stop learning. There's always more information. So I would say, yeah, it's absolutely worth doing it. You know, you'll refresh some of the adult stuff probably in there, but you'll get some new insights as well. Would you say that's fair, Colin?
Yeah, spot on, Tom. Yeah, so again, the statistics are obviously a lot different, but yeah, also we know young people are like sponges as well. They absorb quite a lot of different risk factors. So we do talk about kind of the risk factors that young people go through. But yeah, it looks great on your CV, looks great kind of within the workplace. Again, if you've got the youth and the adult, I mean, that's something amazing to have on your kind of CV as well. So yeah, definitely I'd stick with it. And again, it goes through different action plans, although we go through ALGE. So for those that are familiar with MHFA, but it's got a different approach to certain situations as well. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. I mean, in addition to the mental health first aid, I mean, we tend not to run it too often in the Kent and Medway Healthy Workplace programme. There's also the Connect 5 mental health training, which is available, and it looks at some CBT type approaches you can use in having connective and positive conversations, very much along the lines of some of the things Tom's talked about today. So again, if that's something that's of interest, do get in touch with us as a team. Tom and Colin and the programme do try to work together and sort of complement one another in what we can give to local businesses. Is there anyone got any further questions? Anyone want to pop their hand up and unmute themselves and ask anything just before we wrap up this afternoon?
They're on camera. Hi everyone. About the perinatal support, I actually it was Maternal Mental Health Awareness Week a couple of weeks ago. I've got some fantastic resources which detail lots and lots of online and support all over the country. So if you want to drop me an email, I'll put it in the chat now, and I can send you those links directly for that national and local support. I've tried taking a picture and adding it to the chat, but it's not letting me do it. So I'll put my email in there now. And if you want to just drop me an email, I can send that link on to you.
That's great, thank you. So all that's left for me to say, really, unless anyone has any further questions, is firstly to thank Tom for his presentation this afternoon, full of loads of useful information. Thank you, Colin, for your contributions. As a Healthy Workplace team, we're happy to stay on the call for a short while if anyone's got any further questions. If you do have questions you'd like to speak about in a separate meeting, the email address is on the screen there, and we're happy to have any meetings with businesses and look at some of the things you might want to address. Please do fill in the feedback form. There's a link to the chat, it was in the chat way up the chat now. You can scan the QR code on the screen, that will take you straight to it. I think Catherine's just going to repost that. There we go. So it's just in the chat. So please do give your feedback. It does help us to sort of shape these sessions and make sure that people are getting the most out of them. But if there's any other questions, do ask away. If not, have a lovely afternoon and enjoy the rest of Mental Health Awareness Week.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart.
Bye.
Michelle, I'll email you. Do you want me to email you the PowerPoint? I'll throw that PDF in as well of the Perma.
Oh yes, please, that'd be great. And then we can send it out to the list of the delegates that were booked on.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Well, I'm doing it as we speak. It's nice to meet everyone. Look after yourselves. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Tom.
Yeah, good to meet everyone. Sorry, I was a little bit, the life of having a toddler and doing the handover. But yeah, if you've got any questions, guys. Sorry, Tom?
You make me coffee, Colin.
I know, it's catching a few people out, but yeah, I'm kind of blending in a little bit. But yeah, obviously you've got our email addresses, guys. So anything you need, obviously we link up close with Michelle anyway, so just give us a shout. And yeah, we've now got a brand new LinkedIn page, Amy, haven't we? So again, I think we're following you guys as well. So again, if we want to swap anything, just watch that space.
Perfect. Thank
But yeah,
you.
good to see some new
Thank
faces.
you. It's lovely to meet you. Thank you so
Take
much.
care. Have a good afternoon. Take care. Bye.
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 Bye.